Several lawmakers are calling for updated policies to help federal agencies investigate and respond to recent drone sightings. The proposals from leaders in New Jersey, New York, and Pennsylvania come as the mysterious flying objects have been repeatedly spotted in at least half a dozen states. As multiple federal departments collaborate on the case, officials continue to reiterate there is, quote, no evidence of a national security or public safety threat in the area. CBS News congressional correspondent Scott MacFarlane joins us now. Scott, what exactly would lawmakers like to see done, and how urgent is this push for action?
Oh, there is a whole flood of proposals from members of Congress from the Northeast, one after another, as the week began here. Let's start with Mike Waltz. He's actually a Florida congressman selected by Donald Trump to be the next national security advisor. If that goes through, Mr. Waltz told Face the Nation that he believes this incident, or these incidents involving drones, have exposed gaps between federal agencies where there's unclear oversight and unclear lanes they should be cruising in. So there are proposals to make that more defined. What agency does what? Who has ultimate responsibility if there's a threatening or dangerous drone detected? What's more, there are also proposals, Lindsay, as the evening begins here in Washington, to empower federal agencies, potentially state and local agencies, to take down or better track drones if they get near sensitive areas. Consider airports, seaports, reservoirs from which drinking water is derived. These may be redundant based on what's on the books already, but they want this clarified that somebody can take this thing down if they need to. That's just a sampling of the proposals that are coming in as constituents throughout the Northeast lean on their lawmakers to do something to end the fear, potentially end any threat.
You mentioned fear. I mean, we know that we're hearing from our leaders saying there's no national security threat, no public safety threat, but we keep seeing these instances. And, you know, as CBS News confirms, our editor, Rona Tarrant, said, when there's a vacuum, people fill that with noise. So how many of the reported drone sightings are credible threats?
Yeah, I think that's right. I think what's happening is a lack of fulsome information or some equivocation on this issue leaves a vacuum that gets filled with conspiracy theories and filled with fear. What you're hearing is criticism directed at the federal agencies for not being more explicit with exactly what these things are. If they're not dangerous, what are they? What about this one over my house? What about that one over this part of my district? That vacuum needs to be filled, and I think you're going to hear criticism from both parties that government agencies need to do more to explain what we are seeing in each individual case that gets flagged versus a general statement that they're not threatening. No matter how thorough that answer may be, it's not enough for those who are making the calls.
This is only one of the stories you're tracking there at the Capitol. Funding for federal agencies runs out Friday. Where do things stand with the government funding bill?
There will have to be a vote by Friday to avert a government shutdown. They have flirted with shutdowns throughout this Congress for all parts of this two-year Congress. There have been near shutdowns, a near debt ceiling crisis, just a gridlock that is distinctive. They'll have to vote by Friday to conclude this Congress by averting yet another shutdown standoff. But here's the thing, Lindsay. They also have to approve tens of billions of dollars in emergency disaster aid for those areas slammed by hurricanes Helene and Milton and wildfires. They needed more money in those disaster funds back in September and October. They have let this thing languish for months to the detriment of the storm victims. Congress must move with urgency this week to approve that money, too.
All right, Scott MacFarlane, thank you for joining us.